Welcome to Casual Watch Talk, the podcast from the Casual Watch Reviewer YouTube channel. Join us as we talk everything watches, from watch collecting, the latest horology news and interviews. If you're not already subscribed, subscribe on your favourite podcast app. Let's dive into the show. Hey everyone, welcome back to episode 50 now.
Big 50. Love it.
Big 50.
End of the year 50 too. Nice.
Yeah, an end of a year. So we might be skipping a podcast next week with it being Christmas, etc. But we're gonna end this with a bang. So Chris and I are gonna look at our favourite watches of this year, and then that will ultimately fold into some interesting conversations, I'm sure.
Oh, absolutely. I'm ready for it. We don't. Sam has made a list. I have made a list. We have briefly talked about categorizations, but we're not going to stick necessarily to set categories. But they are watches from 2020, and yeah, we'll let it roll.
Absolutely. Well, should we kick off with one that doesn't necessarily have to be from 2020? But have you had a watch obsession this week?
Yeah, I have. It actually is. It's one on the list, and I thought about it, and I have been obsessing over it a little bit. That is the Certina DS Super, the PH500, the one that comes in orange.
Okay.
So if you're familiar with the Certina, the black with red seconds, the DS, the PH200M, super popular. I think that came out end of 2018, 2019, something like that. I really like that one. It reminds me of the Omega, the early Seamasters.
Okay.
It's very vintage diver. Well, they made a special edition in orange for the 500. It is not available in the United States. It's only available in Europe. How I know it's a watch obsession, kids, is I contacted a European seller, a jeweler, and asked them about shipping and VAT. That's how I know. that's how you know. That's how you know it's legit. You know, like that the problem exists. It's well priced. It'd be probably to my door 800, somewhere around
that's
there.
Not bad.
Yeah, special edition. But I gotta get through Christmas.
Yeah, that is not bad at all. Yeah.
But I know a lot of us have this happen, and maybe we should talk about it a little bit. But I showed the wife, and I was like, orange? Question mark? You know, she's a girl, and she has taste, so she's like, I don't orange watch, no. Right? She's like, no. And I'm like, but, and I just stopped. And I was like, if I want it, I'm just going to get it. And she's going to, you know, it's not like she's going to ban me from the house with my orange watch. But I then second guessed if I could pull it off. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I like the look of it, for sure. I don't know whether... I've never been brave enough to try and pull off an orange dialed watch. I think I would go with an orange watch strap. No problem.
Yeah, I've done that.
The orange on the dial.
Yeah, it would. I mean, black strap, orange on the dial. It's definitely the, let's bike to the beach kind of watch. It's not a. I don't think it's an everyday contender. I think it's a fun summer style kind of thing. So.
Yeah. Well. Yeah, that was a pretty good one. My watch obsession has been probably a recurring one, and I know that you love this watch as well. And I don't know why I just don't save up and buy one, but I've been writing a script for top 10 things that new watch collectors might not know about the Omega Speedmaster. Now, I've always been reluctant to do these because I keep thinking about my audience, and you think, oh, well, the audience might know this, but then I noticed that Teddy Balbazar released a video like last week, which was something like, what is a watch? Or something. It wasn't that, but it was something like that, what is what is a watch type of thing. So it's like, well, two can play that game. So I've written, and it was it was really interesting because it made me think about what my knowledge of the Speedmaster was. And there's so many stories that are revolved around the Speedmasters that even some of them I remembered wrong. Like, I thought that Neil Armstrong's Speedmaster failed, and that's why he didn't go on the moon with it. But apparently, which I think is like the common story.
Yeah. But it was something like that he couldn't use it or something, or that was he timing something else? Is that was the story? What was
That's what? Yeah. So apparently the clock in the lunar. I'm giving away one of the 10 here, but apparently the clock in the lunar lander failed, and they thought so much of the Speedmaster that they left that as the clock for the lunar lander because they, so that was something.
And yes, space nerd side note: if the lunar lander loses when it is, it no longer functions at the right time for things. So you absolutely you have to get off the moon at a certain time. So that was mission critical. Interesting, cool.
Yes. So anyway, I've been really obsessing about the Skywalker, the X33 Skywalker.
I know.
It's such a beautiful watch, but then it's like $4,000 for a quartz, which.
Yeah, but
I don't know.
It's
got the history though.
I will say it's. I want one, and what I want to do, like the first thing I would do is Speedy Tuesday. Lousy with it. I literally would post up 4 shots on Speedy Tuesday and be like, "Yep, it's a Speedmaster. Yep, it's a Speedmaster." Just make
yeah, and you never see them. I've never seen one in the wild.
Nope. Other than on current astronauts' wrists. I not caught one in the wild. It's I had the opportunity to try on the Solar Challenger version, which they made 100 million too many. Yeah, because there's so I think Joe Mashab had them. It was they were like $3,200 or whatever. You see them on eBay all the time for like $2,800. Yeah, and my eBay catches them, and and you're like, oh, let me and it's the Solar Challenger, and you're like, no,
Bob's Watches have got one actually, and I've actually asked him if I can go and see, but they're obviously on lockdown for COVID, because I just want to see how obnoxious the green and blue is together, the fluorescent green and blue.
It's not too bad. I mean, the good news is that watch wears great. I think it's one of those watches where you definitely, there's high res pictures of it online, and you sort of get in your head. We've discussed this problem before where, yes, you looked at it on a, full screen macro shot on a 27-inch monitor, and then you're like, wow, it's so small. Like, it's a tiny watch. But it's not tiny. It's really well sized. It is definitely like G-Shock tool watch sized. But titanium Omega sports watch. Perfect.
Okay, well, that was our watch obsessions. So now let's dive into the main body of the show. Kris and I have picked our sort of highlights of this year that we found watch-wise. We've got around about 10 each, and I hang around till the end because Kris and I have also come up with some what we think were duds of the year.
That's right.
So we'll, and then definitely head on over to the Facebook group or drop us an email if you contradict what we have or have your own list. Yeah. Head on over to Casual Watch Talk on Facebook.
And I was able to pull some of these from the Facebook group, so we're everybody's kind of tuned in, so it's good.
Absolutely. Would you want to kick it off, Kris, with your first one?
Sure. I think we shall start with a really affordable favorite. And one that I've seen a bunch and I've had in a shopping cart 4 or 5 times. It's the Hamilton, that American classic, the Intra-Matic chronograph.
Okay, yeah. Comes in
the white, the panda white, and then it comes with the blue and white dials. Such a classic looking watch.
I've seen one in person a few times. The only thing that I noticed about it, because again, when they brought that out, I was like, this has to be in my life, was that the dial to my eye looks very flat. It's hard to explain, because you expect a chronograph to have slightly recessed dials, but it just seems flat.
Printed flat.
Yeah, really they might have changed it. I know it's had several iterations since then. Also, it looked to be a shade too big, but it is a good-looking watch. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah, I think it's a 40 mil, but it is there's no bezel on it, so it's all dial. And there's a little bit of a recess for the subdials, but it's not dramatic, like you said. A central date. It's a beauty. I mean, it definitely is that, like, it ticks that 1960s racer vibe in me, definitely. Very cool.
Well, I'll kick mine off with a diver. And I said this on the channel. I even had Mike France from Christopher Ward on the show and told him on the show, I think their Super Compressor was one of the most exciting dive watches that was released last year. For them to recreate that Super Compressor case when they didn't really have to. They could have made the watch look the way it did without putting the extra engineering into the case, but they actually built that compressor spring and the mechanism, reversed engineered a case over months and months and months. I thought they did an absolute fantastic job of it. If it had the date on it, it would have been in my cart, no problem. But they did a fantastic job of it. And that Christopher Ward, I got to review that Worldtimer. Their quality is there. They're definitely a good value watch. The Christopher Ward. Yeah. So that was my first one.
Okay, that was actually one on my list, and you also ticked off one of my honorable mentions.
Oh,
so
awesome.
Which was that C65 GMT Worldtimer. Was definitely came up a bunch in the thing, so that's with the yellow and the stuff there. And again, I'll echo that C65 Super Compressor. If you haven't, we did a podcast basically talking about it, and then it's interview, etc. So we've been following that one. Very cool watch.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, I'm up. Let's go to. I'm gonna stick chronograph. You went diver. I'm gonna stick in chronograph land. I keep looking at this one. Such a cool watch. I think the case shape is maybe questionable, but the Tissot Heritage Navigator Chrono. It's the 1973, the Chrono Auto 1973. It's a recreation of theirs.
It's beautiful. It
really is.
Watch.
There is one niggle, as you say, about it, and that is, I believe the original had central minutes, and this one does not. I believe that's the case. And please, find me on the Facebook group and track me down if I'm wrong. But I was thinking, this is, I was just about to, like, either buy and try or buy and flip or something, and I did a little more research into it, and boy, would I love to have a central. And then I went off on a complete tangent. This is how watch obsessions work. And then I went off on a complete obsession on central minute chronographs. So
wow,
was just lost for a day there. So nonetheless, that Heritage Navigator, another really, really affordable chronograph. When I first got into this, I think the concept of having a mechanical chronograph was kind of like, I don't have $2,800 to throw around. But I mean, the last two that I mentioned, the Hamilton and the Tissot, both under 1,500, I think 1,400, something like that. Great watches for the money.
Absolutely. Well, I'm gonna. You stuck with the chronographs. I'm gonna stick with the divers as well, because there is an interesting diver that was released, and it was released by Syncron Group, who are the owners of Isofrane and Tropic straps. I'm just putting together a review on those straps, but they released something called the Aquastar Deep Star. It was a watch, recreation of a heritage watch. It was worn by. The original was worn by Jacques Cousteau's son, who I think is called Philippe Cousteau or something.
Mm-hmm.
Philippe Cousteau.
Yeah.
They recreated this watch. It's so quirky. It's got a chronograph, but it's only one dial. Well, there is a sort of it's kind of got a little star.
Kind of got a bug eye kind of look to it with that one eye. With the one eye.
I think it looks fantastic. Honestly, if I'm being brutally honest with you, I think it's too expensive. It's $77.50, I believe, or a derivative, one of the ETA caliber ones. They've got it on pre-release for $2,700 on a Tropic strap, but its real price when they actually release it is going to be like $3,500. I wish it was around the $1,700 to $2,000 mark out the door, because I would be all over this. It's just got such a unique look to it. We'll put all the links to these in the show notes as well if you want to play along.
It's a manual wind. And so there you have a situation where you have a manual wind, looks great, but I'm pretty sure it's a solid case back. Or at least
I don't think it is manual wind. I think. This
is that the original was?
Yeah, the original was. This one is an automatic.
Okay. I'm looking at the monochrome article on it. Interesting. Yeah. So great looking watch. I see your point. I mean, we just talked about inexpensive, value chronographs, so that is getting up there.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's my second one.
Okay. I shall stick in the chronograph land, and this one's also a special mention, and that is that Carl F. Bucherer, the Heritage BiCompax Annual, and Todd has the limited Panda version. Todd's on our Facebook group, and I took another look at that. Such a great, crisp looking chronograph watch. And it has the date, the flip date complication. I don't know if it's called that, flip date, but date window it's two separate dials that complete the 2-digit date. And if you haven't seen it, just really clean looking. I would I'd say a dress chronograph.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, my next three are going to be chronographs, so I'm going to flip to the chronograph category here. Okay. So the first of mine, and I've got to hand it to them, I've slated them a lot this year, and they might be getting another mention later on, but that Omega Snoopy was just so cool. It's a shame that it's, limited availability, but what they did on the back with the little Snoopy and the space thing, and they just did a great job of it.
Really did.
Yeah, it's going to be expensive, but I guess for something unique like that.
What is that going for from the AD?
I think it's around the 8,000 mark. Okay.
I mean, I don't think it's going to lose value. So, if you had, you had a couple of other watches and you were really digging that, I really like the blue on that watch. And then you flip, and then the sold part of that is you flip it over with the Snoopy, and it's so, that's going to be amazing for kids and adults for the rest of your life, kind of.
Yeah, that is definitely one of those things that if you're chatting to somebody that's not into watches whatsoever, and they just don't get excited about watches, you can definitely flip it over and then show the little Snoopy going around the moon, and then the Earth sort of tipping around. So I've just pulled it up on Omega's website now. So let me tell you the exact price. As long as it doesn't say something like
checkbooks ready. Get your call your credit card company. Get your limit increased.
Yeah, get your house remortgaged or whatever.
Right.
It's actually taken an age to load. Oh, so actually I was wrong. It's 9,600.
Okay.
Wow.
Okay. Maybe get a 20% discount. No, there's no way they're
on a
going to discount those.
Strap.
If you get one on a fabric strap, well, I mean, I don't. Yeah, a used car or the Snoopy watch. I will say though, I definitely can see, 70-year-old Kris at a wedding and, being like, check this out.
Yeah, exactly. I may have a fully robotic arm at 70, but my watch is still mechanical.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, that was my third one, the Snoopy at Omega.
Mega Snoopy. Yeah. Such a good pick. All right. I'm going to finish up the chronograph category for me and mention a watch that I think is not necessarily for me, but it was a cool watch and something that I like and I'd like to see brands do, and that's the Breitling, the new Endurance Pro.
Yes, I had that on my list as well.
Nice.
So I definitely am with you on that one. So you ticked off one on my list as well. I like what they've done with that.
Yeah, I mean, it's a, you know, this is full sports watch. It's not over the top with the colors. I think the colors are cool. It comes in with the different chapter ring, and it's all, you know, yellow, red, green, blue, etc. Totally, you know, go to the marathon, go to the Ironman level of sports watch. But it's sharp.
Forged carbon.
Yep, forged carbon. Yeah.
And it's not obscenely priced either.
That's right. That was the selling point for me. You know, they're on their website, $3,000.
And you can get it, obviously, it's a Breitling, so you can get it on Joma Shop for 20% off, 30% off at times.
Or, you know, go to, you know, here's you know, you mentioned that, like, I was looking at the Super Ocean 2 at one point, and I would go into the AD and I would not be afraid to ask for a 15% discount as a starting point there. Yeah, and what's nice with, if you do that, especially Breitling, you're getting the warranty card, you're getting all the stuff, and you're giving your business to a local AD. So
yeah, and that I've had that Breitling B1. I've been gushing about it ever since I bought it. Breitling, this endurance is a quartz, and they do a fantastic job of their thermocompensating quartz movements.
Absolutely,
I would have no problems saying that this will last you a lifetime.
All right.
So my next one, I kind of hate myself for this a little bit, but and I've criticised it because I think it's too expensive, and I've not changed my mind on that. I do think it's too expensive, but the Tag Heuer, the 160th anniversary, I mean, they did the Carrera. They're supposed to have designed it after, you know, the legendary vintage Heuers of the past, and it looks nothing like the one it's supposed to be based on. It's supposed to be based on the Montreal. I've reviewed the real Montreal on the channel, but it's a beautiful looking watch. There was one called the Orange Boy, a Heuer, that this one looks like an Autavia, vintage Autavia, and they've copied kind of some of the uses of colour on there, but it's a beautiful looking watch. $6,750. I'm not feeling it for that, but again, if this was, you know, $4,000, I would be, you know, I'd be stopping myself from.
I'm on their website. I'm seeing $5,950. So we just got a discount. Christmas
really?
discount, yeah.
Oh,
I mean,
nice.
All right, so a little bit there.
Well, what does that tell you? That it must tell you that the market feels like it's overpriced because this is a limited edition.
Oh, true.
And this is on Hodinkey's website as well. The Masters of the limited edition. It's not a Hodinkey limited edition, but they have it for sale on there. Right. And this one is you could add it to your cart now on Tag's website.
Tag Heuer's website, yeah.
I mean, they're definitely in Speedmaster territory there with the money, aren't they? Really?
Certainly. I think this is when I think Tag Heuer, modern Tag. This is the type of watch that I think of. And this is sort of what I would expect from them. You know, we talked a couple months ago about where they're all over the board, you know, where you know, they're making ladies' dress watches with diamonds, and then also they're doing, you know, pulling from their vintage category, and they're basically their Heuer stuff that looks nothing like their modern stuff, and then the modern stuff that wasn't. But this, for me, I think this direction is the way to go.
Yeah, and I'm glad they've left Tag off the dial. They've put Heuer on there. Heuer was the company with the history. Tag had its own history, but it was making parts for race vehicles. Technologies d'avant-garde, I think Tag stands for.
Oh, okay. So actually, Oh, hold up. So I got a little confused here. So there is the Tag Heuer 160 years anniversary collection.
All right.
I'm looking at 4 watches. They have the Carrera. What are the differences here? Because I see what you're talking about. They have almost like a dress watch in silver that has no bezel. And then they have that limited one that's blue and yellow. That's the one you were talking about.
Yeah. Oh, so you're talking about this one with the very prominent tachymeter.
Mm-hmm.
The tachymeter.
Mm-hmm.
That yes, that is classic tag.
Mm-hmm.
That is classic tag.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I'm talking about the 160th anniversary,
okay.
39 millimeter.
Also, yeah. Okay. Also a great. All right. So now we've uncovered their naming problem. All right. Let's. I'm going to switch over to GMTs.
Okay.
And I might as well start. I'll start with the big one. Sinn 105 UTC.
Yeah.
Huge drop from Sinn.
Yep.
So that is, they have the UTC. It also comes in the 105 comes in a 3-hander as well. We've talked about it on the channel. Clean, modern. It's going to be an icon. That's for sure.
Absolutely. I totally agree with you. It's simplicity and minimalism of design done exquisitely well.
Right. Yeah. Like German tool watch design, primo, perfect. Now that I've seen the central day date, I notice it all the time now. It's that, it's bias, confirmation bias. I was like, there was Instagram. There was like some vintage divers with it. We mentioned Seiko last time that had the vertical day date. Now I'm kind of like seeing it everywhere. I've lost all reservations for that. I love the 3-hander with the vertical day date. So.
Absolutely, that's a great pick. I love that watch. Yeah, it's a shame that it's going to be quite tricky to get hold of, I think, for at least the next couple of months because of the pre-order and all of that kind of jazz.
A little bit, yeah. Well, who knows? Maybe it'll be vaccine and then off to Germany. I'll go pick one up.
Well, okay. Well, I'm gonna raise you with a GMT as well. We've talked about this big launch from Baltic, which is a micro brand. Their GMT they've just released it. The bezel is like a grey and a blue.
Absolutely.
It looks awesome.
Yeah.
$1,200 right there. It's using that SoProd movement, which I never heard of SoProd until this year. Didn't realize they were quite an old Swiss brand.
Yeah, you did it again. You snagged one. So that was next on my list.
Oh, cool.
So good.
Yeah, beautiful.
Yeah,
beautiful.
Really, yeah, cool. And it comes. So there's the gray and the blue, but it does come in a couple of different flavors.
Yeah, I think that the most divisive one is probably the green, isn't it? The green combination.
Yeah. But that gray blue Baltic, it's classy. All right, I'm going to let's see, switch over. I had to give you know what? I'm going to go because I got one sniped from me. No, just kidding. And as we said at the top, we did not compare lists. We wanted to be genuine here on the pod. I mentioned the Certina diver at the top of the show. That was my watch obsession. That's on my list here. That orange Super PH 500M. And then we talked. Let's do here. I'm going to do an honorable mention for chronograph.
Okay.
And that is the Bell & Ross BR05 chrono. The new, very modern sports watch, only on the bracelet and rubber strap, integrated bracelet. BR05 chronograph.
Yeah, this is the one for anybody that was getting giving the Nautilus vibes off for people, wasn't it?
Yeah. Yep. But it's their own style. And when it first came out, they did the blue. They came right out, instead of having like it hold and they sometimes they start out with one and then they'll come out with the colors later. They came out with the black and the blue. The blue has the sub minutes on it, and it just it looks good. It looks I think I could rock that.
Yeah, so it's definitely you're right. It's got it does have vibes of the Nautilus, I think, the integration bracelet, but it is Bell and Ross. It's square. It's that squarish.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, square with the circle and the they're matching that's their take on it. It's a funky brand. Everybody knows I like it. It's a funky brand because their style is, they haven't been around for 250 years, and that's okay, but they can take their design language and say, what if we were around in 1970s and were to make an integrated bracelet sports watch, and that's what it would look like. So, which is kind of cool.
Yeah, it looks like you can pick up the 3-hander on some of the grey market sites for quite reasonable, sort of 3.5.
Yeah, it's come down a little bit, and that's I think, and that watch when it first came out, everybody sort of balked at the price, and I feel like it was very much like a Breitling conversation where you're like, yeah, guys, that's retail. no one pays retail. Like it's not, we're not going into the, I love the brand, but it's not, we're not going into the boutique here. It's and it's not a limited edition. It's not on order from, and they only have 9 of them. It's you can get a hold of them, and they're reasonably priced, and they will be discounted, and, go for it.
Okay, well, my next one, I had in my mind a category of vintage inspired, and I think the best vintage recreation, or the one that I warmed to, and this was the one I bought, was I really like what they did with that Walbrook. I mean, yeah, they put a ridiculous movement in it. They shouldn't have put that Miyota in it, but the actual recreation of the watch, it was a Kickstarter, the case, the way it looks, the way it really is not just a homage to the original Walbrook, it really is a sign of great respect, I think, what they did to it. So I got 2 versions, the quartz and the mechanical. So mine's the Walbrook Skin Diver for best vintage recreation of this year.
Yes, we have talked about the Walbrook on the channel a lot, but having it in hand, I could see what you love about it. It is a very faithful recreation, which is cool. I mean, we had a conversation. You were nervous about the hands. They look delicate. They aren't, but they look delicate. And like that, what I mean? Like if you're going for a vintage feel, recreation vintage feel, something that really nails really nails the details. Had it side by side with my GMT, my Bell & Ross GMT, and you can totally get the aircraft a pilot watch vibe from it. So very cool. Speaking of vintage, I don't know if this falls in this category. I guess we can talk about it, but my next watch is just a 3-hander, but it caught my eye, and I think it's really one of the hot releases of 2020. Well, hot release? Well, one of the, the more popular releases of 2020. And that's the Longines Spirit. So that's their Spirit. It's a 3-hander. It's a field watch style.
Is this the one with the stars on it?
Yes.
Yeah, I like the look of it.
So,
and the chronograph.
Yep, and and also the chronograph. So the Spirit line, the 3-hander, and the chronograph. So Chronometer tested.
Wow.
And very reasonably priced.
Yeah, they've really done some good things recently, haven't they? Last couple of years with their sort of vintage recreations. This one is a really good looking watch.
Absolutely, yeah. My only niggle when it came out was the I think the larger size. has the cutoff 3 on the dial. The cutoff 3 on the dial kind of looks like a half of a B. That was my only small thing. But let me verify that right now. Let me just find out, because I believe it was the larger version. So it comes in a 40, not a 38. So it's a 40, and then it also comes in a 42. The 42 has the cutoff numeral. 42 is too big. Don't buy a 42. Unless you have 8-inch wrists, don't buy a 42. 40 is just fine. Really, really nice looking piece, vintage inspired. It looks like, one of the early Dirty Dozen field watches, but with a modern take, with modern components. And I have it listed here for £1,800. So what's that in real money?
Yeah, you're gonna be like 2,200-ish or
something like
yeah,
that. Yeah, sort of something like that. Yeah, yeah, cool.
Good choice. Well, my next one is the second of the Christopher Ward watches. I think they did a great job of their C65 1969 inspired chronograph watch. It kind of came a bit out of the blue because they were having success with the Super Compressor and then their C65 Sapphire dial, and then they released this chronograph, and it looks fantastic. It's blue dial. I really like what they've done with this watch. Mike France was chatting about it. 41 millimeters. It's a really good looking chronograph. If this was last year when I was really going big on the chronographs, I was really couldn't get enough chronographs, I think I would have already snapped this one up.
This is a stunner. I saw this when it came out, but I forgot. This looks really good. And what's it? I'm sure it's like 100 meters.
150 meters. Yeah.
So good. And the reverse panda, which I was going off about the last two pods ago. I like it. I like it. Blue, favorite color blue. Yeah.
If you've not seen the vintage hands that they've been putting on, which are basically straight, they put like a bevel down each side of the hand, and then they brush the center and then polish the outside. Mm-hmm. It just gives a really unique look to the hands. They're really putting a lot of effort into their watches, Christopher Ward, and I really just like the look of this watch big time.
And little sort of watch nerd side conversation. There is a chronograph that Dan Henry makes that has silver hands, but they're flat and polished. It's impossible to read the time sometimes because you have just these flat polished hands. The watch looks great, but you can't. So this attention to detail, especially in a chronograph like this, where it has a silver polished hour and minute, that it has some depth to it, it has some texture to it, so that you can glance at your watch and say, okay, know exactly what time is easy to read. Little details like that, they absolutely nailed the hands. All right, let's see. Next up, so another three-hander, but actually small seconds, and it's by Nomos, and it is the Tangente Neomatic 41 update. I know that's a lot. This watch is cool style. It's a Bauhaus design. It's a German, the font, etc. Very clean, crisp, dialed watch. But it has something interesting. Instead of the date being a window with numbers, they actually cut out small windows in 31 sections of the outside of the dial.
Oh, right.
And the date wheel is a red indicator that highlights the day you're on.
I think I've seen a watch that does this before. Is it the Rolex Sky Dweller or something? Right. Yeah, that's a really cool look as well. I wonder whether that was quite simple for them to engineer, that they just didn't, they just had a date wheel that does it, or whether it took a real, leap of engineering.
Yeah, I would say either laser cutting or etching the dial is going to be tricky there, just from an engineering perspective. But yeah, the date wheel, as long as the date wheel is just that sort of like a red bar basically that goes around, that should be fairly easy to do. But cool stuff from Nomos. There's another honorable mention for Nomos. They did a special edition watch that has an 84-hour power reserve.
Oh wow.
I think it's 84 or 82. That's also pretty cool. And I think and we talked on the pod about Oris as well. Have they released anything with that new movement? I think they
yes,
had, right?
They have. Yeah, they released that dive watch with it.
Right.
Their classic dive watch. But yeah, I feel like Nomos is one of those watches where the people that buy them, that is like their only watch. Mm-hmm. Like it's one that because you don't see a lot of, on watch forums and stuff like that, people who are watch collectors having a whole host of other watches that include a Nomos.
Right.
So I expect, because they're so well designed, I imagine that the people that buy them, that is like their one of maybe one or two watches that they own.
Yeah. It has, for me, it definitely, you pointed out, and I think it definitely has a artsy designer vibe that rings for me. And I can totally see what you're saying. Like, you're a sound designer for Apple, or you're you're a mechanical engineer or something, and you just have this one watch, and it just happens to be this clean German Nomos. Totally can see it.
Well, I've got one more with a special mention, and then we'll have to finish with our duds of the year. And I've got at least 3 of those. So my next watch, there's a couple of micro brands that I not only jump at the chance to review, but I really look forward to reviewing them. The first is Boulder. I like what they do. Phoebus as well. I reviewed that Proteus, that quirky watch that they kind of force-aged. It looked like it was 100 years old. Mm-hmm. The case was all bashed up. They do a great job. But of course, my most exciting microbrand release this year was from Veja, their Veja dive watch. I reviewed the D7. I'm hoping to get the D5 in for review, but hearing the guys on the podcast talk about how they designed it, Ryan and Reagan, I just think they did a great job of it, honestly.
Yeah. That's a great pick. And I feel like we almost had insider knowledge there, and it turns out they had sent that to all of their fans. So, I mean, they're continuing that sort of Kickstarter tradition where their customers, and they're not even necessarily customers. They told us they just had anybody who was interested in sort of giving them feedback, which is great. And I think they pulled off a great set of watches with that dive watch. I saw someone, where was that? I saw someone mention, maybe it was Instagram. They had started with their field watch, and then they switched over to dive watches, and someone was maybe like, oh, you're doing a field watch, now you're doing a dive watch, that kind of thing. I think the take for them was their original field watch, they wanted it absolutely waterproof.
Yes.
And to the point where they recalled some, and they're like, if you get water in it, just send it to us. I mean, this is the kind of warranty stuff that they were happy to deal with. So from my perspective, and they were surfing with it and whatever, as they do. And from my perspective, it was not a leap for them to move over to a dive watch.
Yeah, absolutely. They are 2 surfers. They do a lot of things to do with the sea. They've got, friends that are, they did, they've got friends who are fishermen, who are free divers and things like that. So, yeah, you're right. It's one of the few brands where they will guarantee their water resistance, because a lot of these big brands, they will not guarantee that their watches are fully water resistant, and if they fail, then there's chances are they'll turn around and point the finger and say you left the crown undone, or whatever.
Yeah.
Awesome. So what's your last one then?
So it's gonna be, I guess, is just gonna be I'm just gonna do an honorable mention for my last one.
Yeah.
And then we'll I'm excited to get into the duds. And this is maybe on the line. We like Seiko here on the podcast. We also, because we love them, we give them a hard time.
Yes.
it's because we know they could do better. But we also we do love them. But I had another look at the Seiko Prospex SPB143 579 and all the other prime numbers. That's the new 62 mass inspired Prospex, but not the limited edition, the one that's pretty available. We have already talked the price to death, but man, those dials and that watch and that bezel, really sharp. Our friend Luke on the Facebook group has, I believe, the gilt dial one, and every now and then he posts up pictures of it, and I was like, that's the one to get.
Yeah, and Rob's got one as well, hasn't he? Rob on the
right.
Facebook
that's right.
Groups.
Does he have the blue?
I think he has the blue. No, he has either the grayish or the black.
Oh, right,
dial
the
version.
gray. Yes. In sharp. I mean, it is a little pricey, but I think as far as design, I think as far as like if you want to get a great looking Seiko dive watch, and you're a Seiko fan, I think that's definitely one to get.
Well, should we kick it off with the duds then?
All right.
I've got three. So my first one is a watch that was teased. It was teased so much that I just got bored of it. And I think people on the Facebook group got bored of it because they had a landing page that had a lot of nice history about the watch on, but that's all it was. And each Facebook post, all it was a picture of the side of this watch. And this went on for months and months and months and months, and people are like, just what is the watch? We knew what it was going to look like, or what it had to look like, because it's based on an original watch, and this is the Benrus Type 1, very famous American military watch. I've heard it called the nickname of the CIA watch. Very distinctive style. It's often imitated. There is lots of watches that look like this, but this was the original one. And like on the last pod when we were talking about the Vertex, this model was only available to military personnel or government workers. And so if you buy a pre-owned one, it's probably lived a pretty interesting life. Anyway,
right.
They released the Type 1, put an ETA into it. The reason that it's a dud is the price is just... It's too expensive. It's $1,695 for a watch on a NATO. That it's a very simple design. There's not. I can't see how there is $1,695 there.
Right.
Honestly.
Yeah. Yep. If you gave me the case, and there are some pretty similar. I mean, that's a very, I think there's some aftermarket cases. You could probably get something that's pretty close. Case, bezel, sapphire crystal. It is a plain as can be dial. There's no writing on the dial, very much like the style. And yeah, you could Seiko mod this up for $400, $300 and have it be exactly that. So for $1,600, that's, yeah.
It's a lot. I mean, it has an ETA movement in it, but the reason why, and And I think this is a real shame and a pretty big stain, I would say, on modern watch collecting, is that this watch and CWC, who I'm going to totally call out again, and other brands, I mean, we saw that mil-spec, Blaupau on the show. These were no military in the world is going to buy watches that were $1,695. Yep. They're famous because they were not cheap, but they were military issued because they were a great watch for the money, and the military saw that in there.
And they could be made to spec, and they were a reasonable price, made to spec, not luxury. Just this is a pure tool watch. Yeah, I made this analogy, I believe, the last time we talked about this. This is the camo jacket in the mall that they want, $280 for.
So anyway, it's a shame. It was a shame. So that was my first dud.
All right, I'm gonna move right. Well, wow, it was a very specific dud. I feel like I was just gonna pick off. I have to mention the Ralph Lauren Polo watch. That was my first one I thought of. I was like, oh, it has to be. That they came out, that announced that, and I think every watch collector it just was like, what you did what? If you haven't seen it, definitely Google it. It is a sort of if you went to a sticker store, okay, and you said, print me like a polo player on a sticker, and then you just went and you put that on the dial. Just laid that right on the dial, and then and then tried to sell it and for some ungodly amount of money.
You know what this watch is? That watch is Christmas. Your wife doesn't really know what to buy you, so they buy you the aftershave kit that comes with the free duffel bag. But this time it's the aftershave that comes with the free watch.
Absolutely. Oh, I can see it with the pack. Yeah. It's the
like
slippers.
A blister pack. Yeah.
The wallet, the slippers, the watch, and it's in a little blister pack, and it's right next to the cologne section in Macy's. I can see it absolutely.
Yeah, or you buy $100 worth of Polo Sport aftershave and get this free watch.
Free watch. Oh, like digging out of a cereal box kind of thing.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, well, my next two duds are probably likely going to get me in trouble, but I'm just going to go for it anyway. Nice. My first one is, I did say some nice things about Omega, so, I said the Snoopy was one of my favourites, but the two biggest duds this year for me were two Omegas. So the first one I'll kick it off with, they created, for some unknown reason, a titanium Aquaterra watch where even the movement was made of titanium. I think precisely probably nobody was knocking down Omega's door to be like, oh, wonder that Aquaterra. I wonder if you could make could you make a movement out of titanium?
Exactly.
And they won, no lie, they won $48,600 for this.
Ugh.
Flipping ultralight sports watch. I don't know who this is aimed for. I don't know. I feel like anyone that has $48,000 burning a hole in their pocket is not really jonesing for a titanium dialed, titanium movement, titanium cased watch.
Yeah. There's so much else out there.
It's just ridiculous. And then, of course, go on. Have you got another dud, or shall I bring?
No. I was just gonna say. I think maybe an idea for maybe one of the next pods is I want to talk about what you could get for your money, and this is a perfect example. I was going to use the Daytona, but maybe we'll use this. Maybe use this titanium Omega. But what other stuff could you buy? Like once you're in, this level of price, what could you buy and get on your wrist that what 45 you said?
$48,600.
$48,000. Okay, so hey kids, do you want a Patek Philippe? Because that's what kind of money we're talking about here. And I know a hell of a lot more people that are gonna look down at your wrist and recognize a Patek than the fact that your Omega sports watch happens to be worth more than your SUV.
It's incredible, isn't it? It's one of those watches, like you said, you could get. That's definitely Patek category. It's way over what a Rolex would be if you could get one.
Yeah.
And then I don't know, but anyway, I will.
Next up, I'm gonna let you go. You do your next one.
My final one, because this one is going to be controversial. But this is Omega. I cannot understand the James Bond titanium Seamaster. Okay. I can't understand how the steel version of the Seamaster, with the iconic bracelet that the Seamaster has, brand new, is $5,200. Yet the James Bond one with a titanium case on it, lume that is aged so much it looks like it's basically brown.
It's brown.
And it doesn't come on a bracelet. It comes on a mesh bracelet, which again is titanium.
With no fitted end links. Like it is like the mesh bracelet that you get, if you buy an aftermarket mesh bracelet for any watch, this is what it looks like.
Exactly. And James Bond is all about style, glamour. That Speedmaster is the Seamaster that's iconic to him is shiny. It looks $1 million. That titanium one looks like a bad fake of a Seamaster. And $9,200.
Right.
I just can't get my head around it. And to hear Omega speak, you would think they had invented titanium watches, but they haven't.
Right.
Citizen have amazing titanium cases. I reviewed a $300 micro brand that had a fantastic titanium case. Titanium is probably slightly more expensive than steel, and it might take a little bit more machining, but these machines exist. Omega didn't invent like an acid etching tool.
Yeah, I feel like their marketing department is using it like pressed carbon or some exotic material that you're like, we have an exotic material now, and you're like, yes, titanium was an exotic material in 1984.
Yes.
They need to make it out of like Inconel or something. Make it out of like rocket parts.
Exactly. Or the Speedmaster that they have, the Dark Side of the Moon with that ceramic case where there's an incredible amount of machining and things like that that's gone into it. So you can understand why that is worth what it's worth. But I just can't fathom it. And the way they've aged that lume, it's verging on the ridiculous. Like it's so peach coloured, it's almost brown. It just isn't James Bond to me.
I will quote you, Sam. If you like celebrating the most toxic material ever used in watchmaking.
Yeah, that old radium. They've gone way over the top with it.
Absolutely.
But,
we are not endorsed or acknowledged by Omega.
No, this is our own opinions and not the opinions of anyone else.
I had one left, one for fun, and this will finish off the list. And that was that Yema LED watch that came out like a month ago. And,
yes. Hamilton kind of did it well, didn't it? And then they tried to bring it home with their version, which is, it was bizarre.
The case shape was completely different. And then when I saw the original, I was just like, my mind was drawn to the Disney film Black Hole, the robots. The funky looking robots. It kind of looks like that funky looking robot, the red and silver, and I don't know what. I don't know kind of what they were going for with it, and then they changed what it looked like. Total dud for me, but last on the list.
Well, that's been absolutely great, Chris. Thanks for those. Well, guys, let Chris and I know what you think of our picks over on the Casual Watch Talk Facebook group. And if we don't do a podcast next week, a happy holidays to everyone, as it is that season. Hope you get nice watches.
Yeah, Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays.
Well, thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time on Casual Watch Talk.